similar to like Stunning Strike, where they're just, you know, incapacitated for 1 round.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And I'm Nerdarchy Dave. Welcome to Nerdarchy. 4 nerds, by nerds.
All right, we're back at it again with another One D&D. It's not the OGL, but we're talking about crits today.
Yeah, we're talking about crits, and one of the changes that it kind of fixes a problem with criticals in 5e D&D, but in like the worst possible way.
Yeah, this is something that's gotten quite a lot of negative talk. Removing the ability for rogues, paladins, rogue sneak attack, paladin smite, and spells from actually doing extra crit damage.
Yeah, so they're trying to address the lopsided nature of crits in D&D. Right now, if you're playing a barbarian or you're playing a fighter, you don't get much out of your crits in comparison to those classes that you mentioned,
right,
and those other things, because there's a lot more dice involved.
Right.
If you're a fighter or a barbarian, you're less likely to be rolling extra dice. And if you are, you're not going to roll as many as those other classes. Monks kind of suffer from the same thing as well.
There's a couple things that will add extra things, be it magic items, feats or class abilities that are like, oh, well, you're just going to stack on this thing. Like your battle master's, superiority die occasionally becomes damage. Anything that is not weapon is just like, nope, it doesn't double anymore. You roll that single die once. Only the weapon damage itself gets doubled.
Now, the way 5e does it currently, right? Sneak attack, paladins, rangers oftentimes have a way to increase their damage by an extra die plus hunter's mark. Warlocks also get extra dice with with their Eldritch Smite and Hex as well, which those things are kind of on par with the Battle Master, but most of the fighters aren't getting bonus dice. There's only a couple subclasses that do, and they just don't get them to the degree of those other classes. Now, I will say the fighter and the monk are better at getting opportunities to crit because they can just generate more attacks per round than the other classes. But, even still, they don't benefit from the crit rolls as much.
Right. And the barbarian does tend to have, a little bit worked in of rolling, was it their brutal critical?
At higher levels.
At higher levels. And, there's races that add on top of that you could, double down on. But, the sheer number of possible crits is not going to add up to the mass when, especially if you're looking at, the paladin or, the straight up rogue who's just like, all right, I've got a crap ton of dice here that I'm rolling on top of, my weapon.
And also, if you're a paladin, after you make the attack roll and hit, you decide whether to smite or not. So it's like, oh, I dropped a crit. Yeah, I think I'm going to crit. I'm going to definitely use my smite on this crit, right, to get more dice.
Yeah. If you had to make the call before you rolled the die, that's one thing. But being able to decide after the fact, I don't think there's a paladin in the world that's going to be like, nah, I rolled a crit. I'm not smiting this attack.
Yeah.
If you got the spell slot available and you don't have a friend that is on death's door that you really need to use, do it.
And I applaud the D&D team for trying to even the playing field, because I've also for a long time thought this was a bit of an issue for your fighters, your barbarians, and your monks, basically, where they're the ones I would say are the most heavily affected.
So, I would, rather than take away the crits, I would look at, finding a way to offer some other kind of, compensation. Like the paladin, once you hit a level 11, you just are always smiting. You get an extra D8 all the time on your attacks, and then you can choose to smite on top of it. For the fighter, you're getting extra attacks, but there's beyond the number of attacks. There should be another die that could be put in there that could be on similar of like, no, you are just so good at fighting, you should be adding extra damage on every swing. I feel like that would be a better compensation to me than to say, all right, everybody else is going to suffer to try and make the fighter better.
Or, either that or maybe even give them some kind of, feature that only applies to crits, right? And, I feel like monks should get it as well, barbarians. So barbarians is tough because eventually the barbarian is going to get brutal critical. And maybe that's they're compensated in other ways, I feel like. So maybe we can leave off the barbarian, but the monk and the fighter could definitely use a little bit of help here. It's either got to be like even make them get crits even more often than they already do, or, and that's the compensation, or make it better when they do crit.
All right. So I would say with the monk, if you crit, you get a key back. This would allow you to either instantly use that to try and, use a stunning strike, or just be able to hold that in reserve for something else. I think, along the same lines of where the paladin is getting the ability to smite all the time, I think the fighter should either be doing bonus damage from just straight up good, or they have an increased crit chance that would have to stack with like the champion's ability. Just so that you've got just this larger threshold to be able to play with, or potentially both.
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier about, magic items can kind of affect it as well. So like monks and fighters can get a little bit of a boost there, but so can everybody else. So,
exactly.
So that doesn't level the playing field either. Yeah. So I don't know if there's got to be a special martial menu kind of thing where you can switch it up, where maybe it's not extra damage but extra effects that could happen, something cool that could happen. Regaining your key point is a pretty cool idea, especially that's a deficit for monks anyway. The idea that, you could actually turn it in right away to make it a stunning strike, or just gain the key point. I like that because there's some things they can't stun anyway.
Right.
So it would suck for them to be like, I got this stun.
I got a free stun. That doesn't work.
That doesn't work on this guy. Yeah.
But, having that option to either instantly be able to stun or, get that key back, I feel that would to me fix monk, because monk already does quite a lot. I mean, with their offhand attack and flurry of blows, like you've got the capacity to do as many attacks as a fighter normally.
You get up to 5 attacks in a round with some of the subclasses at 20th level.
Right. So like you can be on par with a fighter, which nothing else can do at those levels. Yes, it costs the key to do it, but you've got it. Whereas the fighter, other than Battle Master, like there's nothing within the fighter or subclasses that is doing the extra damage that can kind of compete with these other things. So I feel putting something into the core build, which would affect all subclasses for fighter, I feel would be a great way to kind of put them on par with other things, whether it be a menu, whether it be an extra die, just because they know how to do stuff. When you look at actual fighting manuals or these great fight scenes in movies, and you see what someone who really knows what they're doing, like it would make sense that it's like, no, this is not just a straight up number of attacks. This is, an absolute degree of skill where they just slaughter their way through a field of people because they know how to just out kill people.
So would you want to see effects or more damage, or somewhere in the middle?
I like the option of the middle, where it's like, okay, you can choose from a menu, but one of that pieces of the menu is more damage, so that it would, like, all right, if suppose you're playing a fighter that is, you're skilled, but you want to go the route of, I want to disable and not just straight up kill, you could choose to be like, all right, I'm going to disable this guy, I'm going to disable that guy. And you put some debilitating effects where it could potentially, you know, knock them out or do, you know, subdual damage or whatever. You know, these kind of things could be like, all right, this is awesome, because then you could just be like, all right, you know, punch to the face, you know, pommel strike to the midsection, and you just like wade your way through a group of people, and all of them are like moaning and groaning on the ground, like you see in some of those action movies.
So do you think it should be a saving throw, or should the thing just happen?
I think it could possibly be like a saving throw at lower levels, but then as you kind of get to that upper tier, it just happens.
So I feel like I'm feeling no save, and I'm thinking things like knock someone prone because they can just get up on the next turn. You know, something similar to like Stunning Strike, where they're just, you know, incapacitated for 1 round. You know, also the idea of, you know, the slow condition would be something to be kind of cool, or you know, any of the any other conditions. But I would just say they all just last 1 round.
Sure.
So once it comes back around to the fighter, it ends. So this way, it just causes the enemy to suck a little bit for 1 round.
Yeah, I mean, I would be all for that, you know, and then have that menu, and, you know, just be able to choose and have more things get added as you get higher levels. I think that could work.
Yeah, and then and that actually is a good idea. Like more debilitating things get added at higher levels.
Like you wouldn't want at a low level for them to be able to instantly stun something, you know, whereas the monk has got to do all these things and expend a resource. So, you know, I don't know where we're looking at, you know, putting something like this, but, you know, if it starts well after, you know, the monk has the ability to stun, and, you know, I feel that would definitely make it more, you know, even.
Yeah, it could be. You could stack up some interesting combinations too, right? Like if you just so happens that you build a crit fishing type build and you get multiple attacks and you manage to keep critting, where it's like I knock them prone, so
and then I slow them.
You know, now I have advantage, and then I slow them, or I have something that gives them, you know, disadvantage on saving throws or everything for the round. Now I try and stun them, you know, so it can be kind of cool.
Yeah, and that is an aspect of the game that so many people love looking at and love going for.
Yeah, the different character builds that you can do, optimizing for, you know, specific things, and it also might add something a little bit more interesting to fighters. You know, maybe each subclass has their own special thing they do on a crit. These are just some ideas.
Hey, you like this video as well as great content you can find over on Nerdarchy.com? Why not come check us out at Nerdarchy the store or on Patreon and support us over there?
Let us know what you think. How would you fix crits in D&D? Is One D&D moving in the right direction? Love it, hate it? We've already seen them change from, you know, the DMs can't crit to now everybody can crit, and they're constantly trying to tweak things. I don't know, maybe you won't even be playing D&D anymore. Or, you know, you're going to continue to play 5e and forget about One D&D. We're still figuring out what we're going to do, but discuss it down in the comments below.
While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click on that notification bell. You know the drill.
Quick reminder, we drop new videos on the channel here every week, so come on back. But you can't wait till then? No worries, we got you covered. Check out Nerdarchy weighs in on One D&D crits and D20 tests.
So until next time, stay nerdy.